go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Come on. Oh, he's missing.
Oh my, dude.
Eat it.
Oh my.
He missed it again.
Holy. Oh, one's after mine. One's after mine. Come on.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is fall, fish are chasing bait, and what I want to talk about today is the best ways to rig a fluke for fall time fishing, because I know a fluke is going to be in everybody's box and on everybody's deck with those fish chasing bait and just the sheer number of fish that this catches. So I want to make sure you guys have the best rigging options to catch you the most fish this fall, so you don't miss out on any of these giant bass that are moving shallow. So stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss this one. So probably one of America's favorite soft plastic baits is going to be a fluke. I know I keep a flambeau box full of them on the deck with all different colors all the time, from Siren, that chartreuse, to Bubblegum, and then all of your natural colors in between. But there's really only a couple colors that you need, the first of which being Bubblegum, because it's super underrated. And I know I'm going to talk about rigging here in a second, but I want to make sure you have the right colors first. And so the only other two that you're going to need are going to be some sort of natural shad, like a Tennessee shad or a white. Those are the only colors that you're going to need. I don't care what anybody else says, you don't need any more colors. So get that out of the way. And so now let's talk about how I rig them, because how you rig them can really make or break your season or your day depending on how the fish are eating it. And you really have to feel out how they're eating it and what type of fish you're targeting, whether it's largemouth, spotted bass, or smallmouth, because I rig it differently depending on which species I'm fishing for and how they're eating it more specifically. So let's talk about fish blowing up on bait first. So if you are chasing schooling fish and that's why you have a fluke on deck, you'll notice right now I have an exposed hook rigged on there. Because as those fish are blowing up on bait and you're launching a fluke in there, a lot of times those fish are swiping at it because they're trying to get as many shad or alewives or herring in their mouth as they can. And so having that exposed hook is going to give me a little bit better option for catching those fish. Another great way to rig that is going to be your favorite Texas rig style, right? So if you go ahead and Texas rig this fluke, just like I'm doing here, you Texas rig it, but then what you do, if you don't drop it, is you add a little extra something on the back of it. You add a nice little EWG treble or a round bend treble. And so now when you Texas rig this bait, just like this, you have your typical Texas rig, but then you're also going to put this little treble hook in the tail, just like that. Make sure that it's sitting right. And now you have the added bonus, I know that's kind of jacked up how I rigged it, but now you have the added bonus of that treble hook on there, which is going to help you get more fish in the boat if they're coming up and swiping at it. That's also something I'll do for smallmouth if they're really starting to chase and I'm fishing super shallow, not necessarily around cover because you don't want to get that treble hook around cover, but it's something that you have to have on there to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. There we go. I had to rig that treble hook the right way, making sure you put it on there the right way so that way it goes straight up in there like that. And you can see that's way more natural. Is going to be a way that you can really catch those fish that are just kind of grabbing at it. So that treble hook on there is super, super key. You can also rig it with just a treble hook. If you make it a line through where you just thread your line down through the nose and then just put the treble hook in just like that, that's another great option that's going to give you a great advantage for fish that are swiping at that bait. You'll have 2 extra points on there plus the one on the back, and then you can also make it a line through and tuck it back here. So if they're really just barely grabbing at it, you're going to have much more options and opportunity to hook those fish and to get them in the boat. And so that is what I'm going to rig when those fish are slapping at it. Another great way to rig this bait is going to be nose hooking that bait. So what I'll do is I will take my favorite drop shot hook, TK150 by Eagle Claw or Trocar, depending on who you ask. And then you insert a screw lock into the head of this bait. I don't have one on me right now. But, so you would screw that screw lock into the nose of this bait, and then you would take your TK150, put it through the screw lock, just like this, and then you have the perfect nose hook for that bait, because when fish eat a bait, a lot of times they eat it head first, and that's something that people don't think about. If you have a traditional EWG hook in there and that fish eats it head first, you now have to turn that bait 180 degrees before that hook point will penetrate the roof of that fish's mouth. And so if you're missing a lot of fish utilizing an EWG hook, definitely go to a smaller nose hook, because now if that fish eats it head first, you can see how much faster that hook point swivels. So if you're going after largemouth or smallmouth and they're really choking that bait, but you're still having a problem hooking them, That's what's going on, and that's why you need to put that nose hook into there, because that's gonna give you a lot better hookups. Even though it's a small hook, that TK150 with that triangle blade on there is gonna go right in the roof of their mouth, and you won't have a problem landing those fish, but it'll increase your hookup rate astronomically. And if you're fishing around cover and you're fishing for big largemouth or just smallmouth, one of the best ways to rig it is obviously going to be Texas rigging it. There's no better way to get that bait in and around cover without getting stuck than with that Texas rig. It's also going to give it more weight to allow it to sink down into the water a little bit, and that's going to get you a little bit better hookup ratio too when you're in that cover. So I'm going to list 2 off-the-wall ways to rig this Fluke now. And the one is going to be for covering water, and that is going to be with the use of a scrounger head. That's something that most people do not think about. So if I take and just thread this on there, I would put a dab of super glue on there. Make sure you wet it first, then put your dab of super glue on there. And if you rig it just like that, now you have it a way that you can cover water. So if you have windier conditions, you have a little bit more overcast, and you're going down the bank in an area that you know those fish have been pushing bait, or that you suspect they are, now you can get a supernatural presentation by running this Fluke on this scrounger head, because it's going to make that tail go crazy. It's going to give you a great hunting action. And it's going to allow you to fish that bait a little bit deeper and cover a ton of water when you really can't utilize it on a spinning rod because it's overcast and those fish are just kind of still roaming and they're up shallow. This is going to give you a much better way to catch those fish. Plus, with that big single hook, you're going to have a great hookup ratio and really be able to put those fish in the boat. And now you can fish it on a baitcaster and feel like a grown man instead of fishing it on a spinning rod. One other way that I want to talk about rigging this bait is going to be with the use of this little guy right here. That is a Nico weight, or a, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, this is going to be a Nico weight. And what you can do with this is insert it into the nose of that bait. And so now you've nose weighted that bait. And you might be asking, why would I nose rig a Fluke? Well, if you're in an area where those fish are chasing bait and you can see the bass below the bait, but you can't get your Fluke down to them, now you put your favorite little drop shot hook just like that. And now what you've done is this bait is going to spiral as it falls, and it's called a dying shad rig. So now when those fish are busting bait, they go down, you can huck this right into the middle of that bait, and that bait will now spiral down, and those fish, thinking it's a dying bait fish, are gonna come right up and absolutely hammer that bait. And now you have another way to rig that Fluke to really get even more bites. So it's really no secret that a Fluke catches a ton of fish, and I just want to make sure you guys have the best actual advantage for it. And so one thing I do want to talk about before you guys go is going to be the gear that I throw a Fluke on. Now, if you're throwing it on a Baitcaster and some of the setups that I talked about, I'm probably just going to go with an Arc Invoker Pro 7.4 medium heavy what do they call it? A regular action. My chatterbait rod. That's probably what I'm going to go with for that, with 15-pound P-line tactical fluorocarbon, 7-to-1 gear ratio reel. And as always, I'll have all of this stuff linked down below. But if you're throwing it on a spinning rod, this is really, really key. I like to go with a little bit longer rod. This is a 7-1 medium heavy fast action Invoker Pro. Actually, this is an Essence spinning rod. And I like braid to a fluorocarbon leader. So I have 10-pound P-line Spin-X braid on there. It has a red and blue pattern on it, so it doesn't stick out to the fish, but it sticks out to you when it's on the water, because that varying color helps you pick up on it easier. And then I run typically a 12, sometimes even a 15-pound fluorocarbon leader. Typically I run it about twice the length of the rod, because what that does is that gives that little bit of a belly to allow that bait to sink in the water a little bit. If you're fishing it straight on top, you can run a really, really short leader if you need to, like with 15-pound or something, and that'll keep it right up on the surface. I do like to throw it on a 3000 size spinning reel. This is a Shimano Stratic. You want something with a smooth drag where that line just twirls right off there and you can really bomb the cast. And that's why I like that Stratic, because I can really get the most out of my reel with that bait, or with throwing that bait. And it's a reel that I know I'm never gonna have an issue with. So you need to keep a reel on your deck like that. If I'm throwing for really, really open water fish that I think I'm gonna have to be making long casts, I'll even go to a 7.6 Essence in the same model, just a little bit longer, to really give me more castability. Now, when those fish eat it, a lot of times people whiff on those fish because they set the hook as soon as they feel the bite. I have big fish chasing shad right over here, no joke. But listen, I hope you can hear that, because they're just smashing shad. Hold up, we're gonna see if we can't catch one right here. Oh, like that, whiff on one like that. I just had a giant eat that. But what happens is when you whiff on one like that, it's because that fish has come up and eat it. And a lot of times people whiff by just straight setting the hook when they really need to reel down when they feel that fish and just lean on them, and you're gonna land a ton more fish when you're throwing that fluke. Now, a video that pairs extremely well with it is going to be my favorite schooling fish setups, where I break down my top 5 favorite schooling fish setups. I'll have that linked right up here, so go ahead and check that out. Also, smash that subscribe button to follow with the content that I'm gonna have be coming out every week. It's been a great year so far. I wanna keep that rolling. But God bless you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.